Guys, Bitcoin hasn't dumping. Yesterday we called the bearish order flow and we also shorted literally the current local top. I'm going to be talking about my current open positions and how I'm currently holding a long, right? The long awaited long taken from 58k, and then obviously the value area high short taken from 64.5, and also potentially Bitcoin could be dropping further if we do actually lose this very important anchored VWAP uptrend. If we do get this lost again and we also lose the value low at 61.3, I'm going to be talking about a potential bigger move that may happen on Bitcoin, a bigger dump. And also, even if that dump happens, I'm not going to be actually scared. Quite the opposite, I'm actually going to be ready, potentially ready for a bigger, nicer long, a higher time frame, medium time frame long on Bitcoin. But however, let's right now cover the basics on Bitcoin. Now, obviously, we did in the past couple of days long Bitcoin after seeing the fake out from 58k, and then even added a newer long, a much nicer technical live taken long from 61.3, and then obviously caught the bottom, waited for the top, waited for the fake out, made a new high on Monday, and then guess what, we actually shorted also the exact top. However, I told you guys yesterday, I did explain myself that, I mean, forget about the 58k long, I already taken 50% off it, I already moved my stop loss to entry. But when I'm going to be dealing with those two-sided trades, with me having the short from the top and locally the short from the long from the bottom, I said that I'm not going to be taking any profits on both. Quite the opposite, I'm going to be actually waiting for one of them to actually get more probable for it to win. And obviously we then saw with the bearish order flow as covered from yesterday, we saw Bitcoin lose 62.5, and I told you, like, if Bitcoin and when Bitcoin does lose 62.5, I'm going to be actually closing my long in profit and letting the short to be running. And now the case is that I've got the long still running from 58k. I did close in profits the 61k long, and I still got the 64.5 short taken and still open. As you can clearly see, this is it. This is the short taken from the current local top, and obviously the long I'm talking about, which is from 58k. However, right now I want to cover the most important thing: whether Bitcoin is going to right now potentially hold the anchored VWAP, give us I mean, the uptrend being still intact and not losing it. As you can clearly see, guys, I've taken this anchored VWAP from the bottom, and this is basically representing the uptrend we had made after getting the first long and after bottoming out, after faking out 58k. So right now it remains to be seen. I cannot tell you what's going to happen on Bitcoin. I can merely just tell you what you should do and how you should act whatever happens on Bitcoin. Now, as said, I still got my long. I might be closing it if Bitcoin loses the anchored VWAP and also loses what? Loses the value area low, which is 61.3. I told you guys, like, for me to have the bullish perspective that made me hold my long from 58k to 61 and then call for higher from 61.3 all the way higher to 64.5 was the fact that we did actually reclaim, flip the resistance zone of 61.3 into support. So right now, us losing the anchored VWAP and also that exact line that made me actually become locally bullish, which is 61.3, losing it would contextually mean that we may have ran out of us being bullish. We could technically close the long from 58k, keep the short running from 64.5. However, obviously this wouldn't be the end of me longing Bitcoin or trying to long Bitcoin, because as I told you, the most I guess ideal scenario for taking a long, let's say Bitcoin does actually, again, I don't know what would happen, we haven't yet lost 61.3, but assuming that Bitcoin does lose 61.3 and we keep on dumping and we actually flip it back into resistance as we had done previously, I think less than a month ago, maybe 20 days ago, we did lose 61.3 and then we saw the drop. So if Bitcoin wants to do this again, as told you, I might be closing the long from 58k in massive profits, and also I may be ready for adding a newer long, because losing 61.3 may cause Bitcoin to drop further, lower to 60k or even 59.5, and this is maybe the area where I could be looking to long. Now, obviously, I always teach you guys, for example, a quick example of how you always can get a long from a zone where you had made a range bound reaction or price action, and you also saw a fake out. So we have this range where the range ended with a fake out and then a pump. So what I usually do, I do it primarily on the lower time frame, but we happen to have a perfect range on the medium time frame. Again, I'm speaking regarding like periods, and this is medium because obviously it took us 6 days to form this range. I usually do it on a day or two, long duration period. So right now, by using the volume profile, I'm putting it on the previous range that actually gave us the most amazing long at 58k, we get the value area level. And as I always teach you guys, this is the level where I'm going to be paying attention to for potentially taking the long. Now I know it's a very contextually bigger than how I usually like my zones to be for supports, hence why I'm primarily going to be focused on $60,000 to around 59.2, 59.5. It's not an exact level. I'm primarily looking at the reaction, the order flow, and obviously I do prefer us seeing the timing of that happening within the NY session open. And obviously I would prefer faking out and fully going below $60,000 and then hitting this weekly and then seeing $60,000 getting weekly. And this is the only good scenario where Bitcoin, instead of fully dropping, again, this is only assuming that Bitcoin does generally drop below 61.3. If this does happen and we actually hit this level, we obviously got two scenarios where Bitcoin makes a newer low, and obviously this would be happening. I cannot tell you what's going to happen and which scenario would happen, but if this does happen, I'm not going to be long in Bitcoin. Obviously, I'll just keep my short and be happy. However, if Bitcoin wants to actually, instead of dropping further, making newer lows, if it wants to actually build some bullish structure, whereas we do put the first high or low and then make a lower high or a higher low, my bad guys, this could be it. This could be a level where we may, or it would make sense for Bitcoin to make a higher low. So right now, as I told you, I got my long from lower. So if Bitcoin wants to somehow, some way just holds the anchored view up and pump further, I'm going to be happy. And obviously, if we do see the drop, I got two potential scenarios in mind where I either long the fake out of 60 and we make a higher low, or we see a bigger, deeper retracement and then potentially make more money with the current open positions with shorts, and obviously get ready for maybe looking to long somewhere between 57 and 54. Again, it's too early to call. I'm just focused right now on whether Bitcoin will lose 61.3 or maybe can it hold and pump any further if we generally are able to reclaim 62.5 and then 64.5. This could be super critical and bullish on Bitcoin.